We Bare Bears, the movie. I wanted to review this movie because if you don't know the creator of We Bare Bears, I'm forgetting their name. They are directing the new Pixar movie Hoppers, and I wanted to actually go through the series and do a rewatch of the series, but this series is not easiest to stream anymore because Warner Brothers sucks with how they treat their animated shows, and I'm not really sure why they choose to do that. It drives me nuts. I actually fucking hate it. It's pretty terrible how they treat their animated shows, but I really love We Bare Bears. I remember watching the show. However, this movie I've only seen one time, and I wanted to revisit it. And I like this movie, but it is very flawed. I think this movie is a fun movie. Like, it's entertaining. It has a couple good songs. It's a pretty enjoyable, like, TV movie. I just think the way this movie comes across is a little not great. This was released in 2020, by the way. And when you watch this movie with that knowledge, because I remember this, or maybe it was 2021, it might have been 2020, but this movie got delayed because when George Floyd died, and this movie became kind of a sore spot for Warner Brothers because they're like, oh, this movie's like really politically charged. Maybe we shouldn't release that right now. And they delayed it a couple weeks. And you totally see that. Because the thing is, this movie, I feel like, is an encapsulation of what the creator was doing with We Bare Bears. Where you have these three bears who are the only bears in this community, but they're trying to fit in, just make friends and just be seen as cool and, be likable guys. And so there's a very obvious immigration metaphor here in this movie, and you got a police officer who says that he's going to put them in cages. And, I mean, like, even watching this movie now, it feels a little more politically charged because you're like, people in cages, police officers. I mean, I don't want to say the obvious stuff if you're not catching the parallels I'm dropping, but I thought like that those themes are fine. I think kids do need to be experience that, especially since I feel like a lot of children are built into the idea that they should always trust police officers and authorities, and like in a lot of cases, yes, you should, but there's also a lot of propaganda in this country and things like that. So I don't know, but like when I watch this movie, I think it just gets kind of messy because you're like, um, the things that the bears do in this movie don't feel like any different from a normal episode. I feel like since this is a movie that is only made for the fans, a smarter way to do this would have been if they like called back to other episodes and things that they did in the community and made it actually kind of matter a little bit more. But because the things that they do seem more minuscule, like the only really big thing they do is knock out the power for like a little bit that immediately goes back on. But like, I don't know. I just don't. And then it's also like in this show, I don't feel like the community of this town had been like a big focus because it was mostly just about them hanging out with certain random characters in the community. So I don't know. I enjoyed the movie. It's a fun movie, but I just feel like because the movie is a little not the most thought out with how it shows its message, it kind of gets to its goal of its message. That's a struggle with sometimes when you make something where the message is inherently political, because when you make something with the message being inherently political, it gets a little bit harder to ignore that side of it. But also, if you're not really the top of your game, sometimes it can come across a little, I don't want to say hard to watch, but not subtle enough, or just not well thought out. And I feel like that's the problem with this movie. It's an enjoyable movie. If you like We Bare Bears, check it out. If you like the movie Hoppers and you kind of want some of that sense of humor of that show in a movie, in another movie or show, this is a great series to check out. So, yeah, even though it's not perfect, I love the series, and the movie's fun and pretty enjoyable, and I definitely could see myself rewatching this movie again, even if it is a little bit of a tougher watch. I feel like maybe if this movie didn't come out in 2020, I wouldn't be so minded about this movie, but definitely I remember when this movie came out, and it being a topic of conversation, and now feels like it kind of still is. I mean, at least in my mind.